hockey mask, thirst for blood, and an infinite creativity to kill. I know you know what these three characteristics have in common. Jason Voorhees. This man is probably waiting right now for the next victim to show up at some camp out there. This may not be very real to us, but I can't say the same about the story that inspired what we see on Friday the 13th. It is believed that a serial killer named Leonardo Cianciulli served as inspiration for the plot on the first film back in 1980. She became known as Correggio Soap Maker. A simple title, isn't it? It may even be, had it not been for the fact that the soap was made of a raw material that is unthinkable: human flesh. But in order for you to understand the similarity between reality and fiction, I will remind you of what happened in the feature film. I'm still Ian Edgar, and this is Fear the Weird. Do you believe there's more to life than what we're told? Do you have burning questions about hidden and controversial topics? Subscribe to our channel and turn on the bell notification to unravel the mysteries of life and the universe. The first story of the franchise doesn't exactly have Jason as the villain, but he was the driving force behind the plot. The person who really kills people is his mother, Mrs. Voorhees. It turns out that she wants to take revenge at the inspectors at Crystal Lake Camp for neglecting her son in the summer of 1957. Instead of watching the boy, the guardians were distracted doing something else and Jason ended up drowning. Mrs. Voorhees managed to eliminate one by one, leaving only a woman named Alice. What the killer did not realize was that her death toll had come to an end. During a confrontation, Alice managed to decapitate Mrs. Voorhees and soon afterwards falls asleep in a canoe on the lake. However, that lake wasn't like any other. Deep in the murky waters was Jason, who was just waiting for the right moment to emerge. He suddenly appears and attacks Alice, who soon wakes up in a hospital as if she had dreamed of Jason. No boy is said to have been found in the lake, and that does not reassure the survivor. She knows that he still remains at the lake after the first film. The franchise then went through several unusual paths and Jason only became a villain in fact in the second film. And now, listen closely to Leonardo Cianciulli's story and tell me if the similarities are not disturbing. Before she started making soap, cake and pastries of her victims, Leonardo had a very troubled past. She was born in 1894 in southern Italy, and soon in her teens she tried to take her own life twice. Later, in 1917, she married a clerk. Her parents disapproved of the marriage so much that her mother would have cursed her. Leonardo moved to Alta Irpinia and ended up being arrested for fraud 6 years later. She moved to Correggio when she returned to freedom. In the meantime, she had a series of misfortunes involving pregnancy. Leonardo became pregnant no less than 17 times, but 13 of these pregnancies did not work out, as she suffered 10 spontaneous abortions and lost 3 children to other fatalities. It looked like her mother's curse was really taking effect. Leonardo and thousands of other people ended up losing their homes in 1930 due to the devastating Irpinia earthquake. And after all that, she found herself in a dark place mentally and emotionally. It is no wonder that after so many losses, Leonardo became a true protective mother with her 4 children. A personality trait that increased considerably when she received an alert from a fortune teller. At the time, Leonardo's children were still young, and the woman predicted that each of them would encounter death before their time. Her overprotective nature reached its peaks in 1939, when her eldest son Giuseppe made the decision to fight in the Second World War with the Italian army. For a mother like her, that decision was a real shock. Leonardo felt that she needed to step up to make sure that her son was looked after. Praying alone would not be enough this time, and that was when the macabre thoughts began. She came to the conclusion that her son's safety would require sacrifices. Human sacrifices, to be more specific. Human lives should be taken so that Giuseppe's life would be spared in the war. It is not known exactly where this idea came from, since the religions of Italy did not accept this type of behavior. However, that did not stop her from taking the lives of 3 women. The first was called Faustina Seti, a middle-aged single woman from the neighborhood. Leonardo lured her into a trap, saying she would find her a husband. The overprotective mother persuaded her to write letters to family members stating that she had traveled to another country to visit a man. Shortly after arriving at Leonardo's house, Faustina was drugged with wine and fell asleep. And as it turns out, she never woke up again. Leonardo dismembered the neighbor into 9 pieces and put all the blood in a large basin. She later described what she did next. I will spare you the sordid details. They are horrifying. She said she dissolved the pieces with caustic soda that she had bought to make soap. With the blood, she even made a mixture with flour, sugar, chocolate and other ingredients to make various cakes and serve the ladies who visited her. Leonardo said that she and Giuseppe himself also ate from the recipe. The second victim came in 1940. Her name was Francesca Sucrose. Her strategy was basically the same. She convinced the woman to come to her house with the promise of a job abroad. Upon arriving, Francesca was drugged with wine and ended up being mixed into cakes and some kinds of pastry. The third and last victim was also taken in 1940. Virginia Caco, a singer who received promises from Leonardo about a job in Florence. The same happened to her. Virginia went to Leonardo's house, drank wine, was killed, and was not only made into cake but also soap. The murderer has said that she ended up in the pot like the other 2. The meat was fat and white, and after boiling for a long time, I managed to make a creamy soap that's much more appealing. Do you want to guess what Leonardo did? 2 bars of soap for neighbors and acquaintances. According to her, the cakes were the best she had ever made, as the victim was very sweet. Leonardo thought that she had done everything right. The victims didn't have many concerned relatives and she disposed of the remains without drawing attention. What she didn't expect was that Virginia had a very concerned sister who saw her entering Leonardo's house on the day that she would have disappeared. One complaint was enough for the police to carry out an investigation. Leonardo denied the charges, but ended up confessing everything when she saw that the blame for the crimes would be directed at her son, Giuseppe. She said she did everything under the influence of the mother who, even though she died years ago, would have demanded the blood of innocent people so as not to harm the lives of her children. Judged and sentenced to 33 years in prison, Leonardo reached the end of her life in 1970 at the age of 76. What do you think? Is Friday the 13th just a fiction story or is it indeed a reality? I can only tell you one thing: be very careful with the lake camps. And be very careful around your neighborhoods too. Leave your comments below and subscribe for future videos. See you next time.